What does it really mean to lead? Not just a team, but yourself. In today's episode, we speak to Craig Stephenson, aka the Total Coach, project leader by day and personal trainer by night, an individual who's redefining what strength looks like inside and outside of the gym. Craig opens up about juggling two careers, about building a brand around real fitness and mental health, and how a snapped ACL pushed him toward a second passion that became a platform for transformation. We dive into why his slogan, Better Every Day, is more than just a hashtag, it's a mindset. We look at the quiet power of leadership through empathy, not ego, and how armour shows up in our corporate life and the gym, and what happens when we're finally ready to take that off. We explore how the fear of failure nearly held him back from everything until he stopped letting it. This isn't your typical PT chat. It's real, raw, thoughtful, and unarmoured. It's packed with wisdom for anyone looking to grow stronger without losing their softness. Let's get into it.
This is the Unarmoured podcast with your host, Dr. Solomon Lennox.
So I'm Craig Stephenson. Recently just turned 48, getting on towards that sort of midlife. I balance two jobs. So I am a program manager in an environmental and civil engineering company based in Newcastle. And I also do, and I'm a fully trained PT. So I do some online and in-person training as well. So yeah, I've got a fairly hectic 9 to 5, quite an important one, 9 to 5. It's working with water companies, and it's one of the key things that's up in the air at the moment around water quality and all this sort of exhibits. And then I've obviously got the PT side that I do, which really is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I'm very passionate about the day job. Everything I do, I really try and aim to be the best I can possibly be in there. But it has a different set of, I guess, experiences, and the successes you get from both are different. The successes in the day job can be 8, 9, 10, 12 months down the line. The successes you see in the PT work can be instant. You see it in people's faces, you see it in people's reactions, that human connection, that sort of the reward of seeing somebody achieve something that they never thought of or didn't think they could it's instant, and that's great. And I guess for me, it's that power to be able to support and influence that, knowing fine well I had almost nothing to do with it, and that really had drawn that out of that individual. So that's an instant thing. And then obviously the day job's a bit different. You're seeing people grow gradually. You're kind of trying to guide people to a career development, which can be 5, 10, 15 years. And projects as well can run 12, 15 months, and you don't see the fruition of that. Quite often in my role, because we're the front end, we don't see the bit at the end where everybody's happier with what things have done. You see the front end, and then you move on to the next job. So yeah, that's kind of my background. I've been with the same company for coming up to 25 years in January. Right. So whether or not you class that as, I don't know, it's commitment, maybe it's whatever, or maybe it's silly, because a lot of people move around and you get different experiences. Yeah. But I've been able to, within this business, move through lots and lots of different roles. And the PT work, I've done that, must be kicking on for 10 to 12 years now. Right. And that's varied. It's varied from in-person to then doing a bit of the online work. And it kind of varies. The great thing about that is I don't rely on it as a living. I'm able to really kind of put all my effort into it. So I don't see myself as just rolling out a standard product or a standard go away and do this. I can really spend the time with people and really understand what they want to do, because they're the ones I want to see work, I'm forced to make a repeatable bit of training that I can just sell to anybody, because that's not what it's about. It's not about selling a product. It's about improving people and giving them the tools, really. Yes. It's really around that.
Amazing. So what kind of, I suppose what you talked about, some of the main differences there in terms of the immediacy of the impact that you see in both of those, but I suppose in both of those environments, or you're in a leadership role, and I just wondered what your thoughts are on how leadership in both of those environments complement each other, or ways in which they differ.
Yeah, for me, it's something that I've kind of never trained in leadership. I've kind of learned it and picked bits up, and I've taken it from people, and I've met leaders within the business, the daytime business, and some very, very strong people and strong messages that they give out. But the traits I think that you have as a leader, it transcends kind of wherever you are. That kind of accountability, that empathy, that compassion, that wanting to see others achieve and wanting to see others succeed and trying to give them the support to be able to do that, but also being able to protect them whilst doing that, and understanding and supporting people to make mistakes and make errors, but let them learn from it and guide through that. I think for me, that leadership is the same across the board, I guess. In the
Right.
PT world, I'm where it stops, basically, with that leadership and that person. So if they don't connect with me or I don't perform, that's kind of where it stops. In the day-to-day job, we've got several different layers of leadership beyond me and probably below me. But I sometimes struggle with calling myself a leader. Maybe it's an imposter syndrome or whatever it is. I don't actively look to be a leader. What I'm trying to do is influence and support just people wherever that may be, whether they're in my team, whether they're in my company, whether they're in my building, whether they're on the way to work, or whether they're part of my PT clients and that sort of thing. It's very much, for me, the leadership skill set for me, it transcends everything. It's part of what you are as a person. I think leadership's difficult to train. It's easier to enhance. But if you're not a natural leader, if you're not a leader, to actively do those traits, it can be difficult. In the day-to-day times, it can be easier because you can sit and you can think, this is what I should be doing, this is what I need to do. But in times of, I guess, stressful times or whatever, you kind of revert to type. So if you're a natural leader, it's drawing those sorts of things out. But I guess for me, it's self-awareness of those as well, and knowing where my strengths are, where other people's strengths are. And you do that in the workplace. You put people in jobs and in roles that they will thrive in and that they will be strong in, whilst identifying areas that they need to grow in.
Yes,
and you do that in the PT world. You do it in the PT world.
Yeah.
You give people exercises to do, and you'll look at them and you'll think, I know where they can go with that. You let them feel it, or you let them grow, and you help them, you support them as they build on that, but also identifying where the weaknesses are and improving those. So for me, leadership, it's very much just those traits, those natural traits that are enhanced, and you work across wherever you are and whatever you're doing, really.
Yeah. And do you notice then, because you said obviously with the PT stuff, the buck stops with you. You're kind of the primary. You have primary responsibility for the development of the clients that you're working with. But then you said, like, obviously in the day job, you've got leaders to the side of you, leaders above you, leaders below you, and you're working more in a team-based environment. What are the main differences that you see there then in terms of working with teams versus working with clients?
I think because individual people, you learn about their strengths and weaknesses very quickly, and every person's different. Everybody reacts to leadership in a different way. Everybody needs leadership in a different way. When you're working within a team, it's being able to identify where those changes need, or where those differences are. And I think, as a team of leaders, if you work well as a leadership team, that's really powerful, because I'll be strong in certain respects, other members of that team might be strong in different respects, and it's being able to draw on all of that, but being open to being able to challenge around that and being open. And I think one of the key things we've done as a leadership team, and I think it's really important, is talk about our strengths, where we see our strengths and weaknesses. Because if I just go around thinking I'm the leader of this and everyone should be doing it my way, when I've got two people alongside me or above me who have a very, very different view, it's a difficult one to play out. But as long as I'm open about where I see my strengths are, they're open about where they see their strengths are, you can focus in using those, but also being really accountable. And basically, I quite often, and I will openly tell people who are my sort of immediate management or leadership, I will tell them what makes me work well.
Yes,
I am and I think that's a strength, is to be able to say, I don't work well by you just ignoring me to let me get on with it.
Yes,
if you think I'm doing a good job, tell us I'm doing a good job. If you think I'm doing an awful job, tell us I'm doing an awful job.
Yeah.
In that way, I can then grow. I can continually grow, because I will second guess myself all the time.
Yes.
Am I doing a good job? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And then if you've got other people who, and I think I'm very people focused. I feel like that's where my strengths lie, hence the PT side of it as well.
Yeah.
I look at building teams, developing teams, working out how we can really support the teams. Whereas we've got other leaders who are very technically focused, and we'll look at driving that efficiency and driving that technical skill set and really into the detail. Now, if we were all people persons, the detail would just disappear. And if we were all detailed, you'd probably find you'd never have a team because everyone would just be like, why you want so much data? So yeah, I think it's, for me, that the difference is having to adapt to the other leaders around you and understand strengths, weaknesses, and apply that. Whereas as a PT, I have to try and manage across all those aspects depending on the person I'm working with and I guess understanding them as a person as well and see what makes them tick.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I think a real light bulb moment for me in my leadership journey was I think I'd my leadership team around me and I was getting frustrated at one point in terms of trying to understand why all the members of the team weren't doing the same thing. Like, why weren't we all focused on the same thing? Why weren't we all energized by the same thing? It was only through those conversations of stepping back and being like, that person's strengths here, they're not energized, or, you know, they don't get as much value or as much reward from that aspect of the job as they do from that aspect of the job. And once I realized that, I wasn't fighting frustration with them. I was kind of saying, okay, well, lead into that bit then, and you crack on with that, I'll crack on with this. And there was more complementary ways of working as a result.
Yeah, and because I think if you'll have noticed it when you talk to anybody, you get somebody talking about something they're passionate about, everything changes. Their eyes light up, you know, they're smiling, they're talking. Probably like me, will talk far too long, but you know, they get really into it. If you ask somebody to do something they're really not quite into, or it's slightly outside of their skill set, you can almost see them go sort of within themselves. Now, that's a time to recognize that and understand why and support them in that. But for me, if you've got a team of 50 people and there's 50 different jobs, find the people who are passionate about those different bits. And whether or not they're the most skilled at that part of it, I don't think necessarily matters. Because if you get someone who is super passionate and, you know, just loves what they do, they'll find a way to make it work, and they'll do it in a way that is over and beyond the person who's very, very skilled at it. And that's, for me, it's about drawing that out of people. Because, you know, you can just see it in people's faces when you talk about it, you know, when everyone's got the mundane job or I was thinking, oh, it's a bit boring. And then you start talking about something they love and it's like, that was great with this, with that. And it's such a better way to have people. You know, energy in itself is just going to make people deliver better. If you're sapping that energy by just giving them the most awful stuff to do, and, you know, that stuff needs done, but if it's explained in a way, and it's explained in a way that we're going to bring you through and we'll get you in a place where you'll be able to really thrive, that to me is leadership. It's understanding that the bits that need done will get done, but you will be in a place where you can thrive and you can be the best version of you. And I'll get you there, and I'll watch you get there, and probably watch you sail beyond me into something else. But that to me doesn't bother us. It's very much that, you know, bringing the passion out of people. Yeah,
you know, that's great. And so tell me a little bit then. So you talked about the PT stuff kind of coming on about maybe 10 years or so ago. So talk to me about that journey and that transition. What inspired that move into the PT space?
So I've played sport all my life. Basically, my background was in rugby. Well, played everything at school: football, basketball, rugby, the whole lot. Basically, kind of played rugby. Wasn't what I would class as a reasonable level, but we had a fantastic team and we had some incredibly successful years. And then once the very last game, I decided I was going to play senior rugby. I tore my ACL, snapped it in the game, and I thought, well, I hadn't realised I'd done it, but I thought, well, that kind of ticks the box of that. That's me done. Which, looking back at 36, probably wasn't me done, but I was at that point where I thought, actually, you know, I need to do something else. And I've got a friend who's got a PT business, and I had a chat with him one day, and sport's something I've always loved. I didn't choose sport when I was younger. I didn't see it being a career. Really wish I had, and maybe focused on that. But so I basically said, you know, if I get trained up, is there something I can do and support you and just help you out on the weekends or whatever? So I did the training course, all of that. And really it kind of took off from there, just a couple of days helping out, little bits of work, and then that's built up and up from there. And then really probably 4 years ago, I thought, well, there's other bits that I do outside of the PT world, but linked with that around the mental and physical health, because I trained I had a lot of interest in the mental health side of it as well. And I did a bit of training with the day job, and it really helped. And I thought, well, actually, I could share a lot of this stuff. And realizing what I do as a person when I train is a lot of the ways that I handle and manage my physical and mental health. And they're not. No. So I thought, well, this is an opportunity to really share that kind of information. And because I'm a very impulsive type person, I made that decision probably on the Monday, and by the Friday I'd created a website and stuck a load of stuff in it and kind of just started going through that. And the intention was never, again, like I say, to start selling plans. It was about giving information out. And really, I was putting on the website, I was putting kind of free guides that I was just downloading information that I've learned and thinking, oh, this might help someone. Don't care how many. And really, there was, again, I was kind of talking about the kit bag scenario. Like when I go to the gym, I've got a bag full of gear just because it makes all of the exercises more effective, better, safer, and you're ready. You've got everything you need for that day, possibly extra just in case. But there is a mental health kit bag that everybody should have. It's around managing that resilience, building that resilience, tools you can fall back on if things aren't going well or you're struggling, or things that you just need to be aware of and just remind yourself of, and, mindfulness and all of that. And there was just some tools that I thought we all go to play sport. We'll all be wearing the right thing. We'll all be taking the right stuff. Mental health side of it. Do we really know the tools that we need? Do we even acknowledge we need tools for that? Do we just fly by night? It's, and there's bits in there. And all I was hoping was that people would see bits and draw something out of there that would help. Yeah. And the odd few times I've been in the gym and someone said, oh, I've had a look at that. That was really helpful. Or, and again, just the one or two people, if they take anything from it, I think it's great. But having those two different toolkits for me they're not exclusive in any way, but they're just really so important. And we focus too much about what we put in the physical one, not enough as what we put and manage in the mental one. So, and I think the drive for my change has gone from this PT stuff's great, it's great fun. I get to train people. Everyone has loads of fun. To as you grow with clients, it's watching them grow, watching them get better. But understanding also the mental side of that. Very, very few times do you train people who are purely there because they want to get super, super fit. There's always a reason behind that. There's something that's triggered that reason. And understanding that, again, draws out a number of different aspects that you can investigate together and really build somebody from, or help them grow to be the strongest physically and the strongest mentally as a person. Whilst providing support both ways, it helps me, it helps them. And that's kind of progressed a lot recently. And when I've had recent clients who've contacted us and they've asked about stuff, and I've provided what I would class as truly bespoke bits of like training online, they kind of look almost a bit shocked. It's like, oh, you've taken a bit more time than I was expecting. But for me, that's what it's about. Personal training is about being personal. It's about understanding the person. It's not about having as many people as possible and trying to take as much money as possible out of people. It's how do I as a person make this person the best they can be, and and often understand why they want to be where they want to be. Yes, people can quite often turn up to the gym for one reason, but really when you dig down, there's many other reasons behind that. And once they're correct, then it's just constant growth from that way forward.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. And so, what kind of inspired that journey to have that dual focus then? Because I think that is quite a unique approach that you take that I don't really see represented in a lot of other kind of online spaces. So what was the impetus behind that?
Well, I think ultimately, because of my daytime career, it had gone so far that to take a full step back and just become a PT would have been a jump too far, having, all the other commitments that I've got going on. But this gave me enough to really put my energy into it and it not become, again, I guess I can treat it as a passion rather than a job. On the PT side. The job, obviously I have as much passion for that and I want to achieve as much as I can in that. But on the PT side, the bits that I do, because I'm working in and around just life, a 9 to 5 and all of that, it's able for me to really put my passion into that at whatever level that needs to be. And that's what I get. That's what I get a reward from it, and that's important to me, that if I stop giving passion into that part of the job, then it's not a job. I guess I struggle to see it as a job anyway, the PT side of it. It's as much as it's like that. I don't want it to be a job. I want it to be a passion. I want it to be something where I'm helping people. And once that goes, it's difficult. And you can't do that by just dishing out an online plan and just saying, go away and tell us what it's like. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And one of the hashtags that you use a lot on on your socials is the better every day. I just wondered if you could talk to me a little bit about that, about what that means to you.
So that's been something in the past whenever I've struggled, and I'll do it physically and mentally. So whenever I've struggled, all all my view is on everything that I do is I want to be slightly better every day. And I'm not talking about being like a step change better, just slightly better. You know, when I look at the physical side of it, that's how I train. I train in a progressive overload way where every single session I'm trying to do something extra. And I'm not trying to go jump from I don't know, let's just say a 40 kilo weight to a 50 kilo weight. I'm trying to go from 6 reps to 7 reps, or I'm trying to go from 40 kilos to 41 kilos. And it's that step change where you start at A and B might be a year and a half away, but the difference is,
Yeah.
you don't see it. You don't see it in those little increments. You just think, well, it's a little bit, it's a little bit, it's a little bit.
Yeah.
Whilst everything, little bits add up. And same with the mental health side of it. I think I spend a lot of time on the mindfulness thinking, if I just do something different or something better every day on myself, or when I'm with somebody, or just doing something that I would even outside of my comfort zone, and just being that slightly better every day. And some of that might be just, giving somebody a compliment that you wouldn't normally, that sort of thing. And then you see how that reaction goes, and you think, well, actually, you might have made a difference in that person that day. And then you think, well, actually, next day, what can I do next? And it might be more around, I need to focus on a different area. And it's those little step changes that in 5 years' time, you look back and think, God, I was there and now I'm all the way over here. And if you try to make those jumps too far, it almost becomes unmanageable, and your goals and your successes, you start to miss them, and it's harder. So yeah, that better every day is literally that. Try and be slightly better. Do something today, do something today that is better than what you did yesterday. And then think about what can you do tomorrow that will be slightly better than you did today. And all of those will just build up. And hopefully what my aim is from a personal perspective is to be the best person I can be, physically, mentally, and just for people, that it's such a big, people are essentially what we, our lives are based around people. So I just want to be the best one I can be, whilst helping other people be the best they can be as well.
And in those moments then when progress isn't linear, those moments where maybe you're just, you're tired one day, that the muscles just aren't firing the same way, you're not getting the same amount of reps, or there isn't that ability to incrementally increase the weight that day, what are you drawing on from the mindfulness and or the mental kit bag to kind of balance out that better every day with the other aspects?
Well, for me, it's the realization that will happen.
Yeah.
You'll always plateau. You'll always, at some point, take a step back, or you might have a bad day, you might have a bad week, you might have a bad month. But it's being able to look at that. The self-awareness side of it is just going, well, actually, I know I'm struggling now, or I know this is a struggle, but I know I did it last week, and I know next week I'll probably be able to do the same thing again. And it's for me, it's taking a step back and looking in over that self-awareness of, this isn't going great. I just need to just reset and take a step back, or even change things up slightly, knowing that the end goal is still there. You're just changing the route slightly. Nothing ever goes on that straight line, ever. And when people think that that's the way it's going to work, and as long as you know from the outset you're going to take a step back, it's the whole, 1 step back, 3 steps forward. You might take 5 steps back, but knowing fine well you'll be 10 steps ahead in the next few weeks. Just basically write it off and move on. Is one of the easiest ways to look at it. It's, you have a bad day or you have a bad training session, it's just like, it's done. Nothing I can do about it other than refocus for the next one and take a step on. It's like any time, it's realizing that failure isn't necessarily failure.
Yeah.
It's just a point to learn and a point to move on from. If you fail every single time, that's obviously the definition of badness, isn't it? Because you're not going to progress. It's understanding why you failed, what you need to put right, move on to the next one, and just basically park it. It's gone. Nothing else we can do about that. Just move on, reset, go again.
And thinking then, just sticking with that notion of failure for a little bit longer, either from your corporate work or from your own personal fitness journey or from your work with clients, what are some of the quote unquote failures that you've experienced that have led to some of the biggest lessons for you or the biggest developments for you?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I guess failure in itself, I had a real issue with failure when I was younger, the fear of failure, I guess. So it got to the point where there wasn't necessarily a fear of failure. It was just, I wouldn't even try in case I failed. It would almost be an element of self-sabotage to a point. So I would be in a comfort zone I wouldn't necessarily step forward in case I failed. I didn't want to fail in front of people. I didn't want to do any of that. And that, when I was younger, I think that really held me back, on a number of things. And it wouldn't be something that I could put my hand on and say, that was the point when I failed because this happened. It's probably more of a thing I'd look back and go, I didn't try that in case I failed. With sort of actually experiencing the failure didn't really happen because I didn't put myself in that space. But I guess later in life, I've met so many different people as I've moved through my life, and I've had lots of different levels of encouragement as I've moved through there as well. And I think that encouragement to take a step into the unknown, take a step forward. I guess the total coach thing would have been one thing that I maybe wouldn't have thought of in the past.
Right. Yeah.
But even going for new roles in the job, I was thinking, it's probably not for me. I don't think it's right. And this sounds awful, but everything I've tried that I would normally have thought was outside of my comfort zone, I've actually been relatively successful in, which is a great thing. On the training side, I've had many, many sessions where I've gone for something and failed, and then I've had to take a step back and go again, and I've normally hit that, and I've had that goal, and that's where the goal, but I still don't push beyond that goal, because I'm still in what I do in the training side. I reset and go for different goals. So, yeah, it sounds awful, but I don't know if it sounds awful, big-headed or anything. I haven't significantly suffered huge failures that have changed my life. What's changed my life is the fact that I haven't gone for them and haven't failed. But I've also not had that success. So that fear of failure has prevented that possibility of success as well.
Right.
And I think that is what eats away at us more. That knowing fine well now, if I did something and failed, it is what it is. It's what I've missed out on through those earlier years where I thought if I'd gone for that could have been really successful. Could have fallen absolutely flat on its face, or it could have been really successful. And I think that's one of the things now that I've understood more. And there's a few quotes that get chucked around, and I'll butcher probably many of them right now, but there's one that kind of sticks in my head. It's around it's like a brave man is not a man who does not feel afraid, but a man who continues despite the presence of failure, chasing that growth. And that's probably a mangled quote from about 7 different people, but it's very true. It's bravery isn't just about that fear of failure. It's progression, no matter that it's there, still being afraid, still being aware of that failure, but still trying to get there. And I think I'm starting to do that now, and seeing successes from it. Whereas I think I probably avoided that whole situation. So yeah, that's probably, I'd love to have a really good story about a huge failure that's just gone horrible. But if you don't put yourself in that place, you don't have those downs. You don't have ups, if you know what I mean. And I'm starting to see that now. I'm starting to get the ups. But I guess my mindset is now I don't necessarily see them as failures, and I could see things where I haven't gone as well.
Yes, yeah.
And I've learned from it and changed that. So could I put my hand on a big, catastrophic event in my life that's changed the way I think? No, I think it's been very gradual. And I think the support I've had from people as I've got older and I've started to learn who I am and what my strengths are, and they've supported that and encouraged that, really given me the emphasis to know you can do this. You're more than capable of doing this. In fact, you're very, very good at this. It's just that emphasis to go, right, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try and see. And luckily for me, and I would hope it's how I've built myself up, is that I have been successful when I've tried these things. So maybe the next step is to take a massive jump and see that has got a significant failure at the end of it, potential, but also a significant opportunity.
Yeah.
The Unarmoured podcast. Stories of fearless vulnerability and authenticity.
I imagine, that the mindfulness work and the mental kit bag, those things must help tremendously in terms of what you're saying at the moment about that ability to start stepping out of your comfort zone and to take more risks and to try things like the launch of the Total Coach that you might not have done prior to that work.
Yeah. I don't just say that I've got that and that there's loads of things you can use. I use those things on a regular basis. I don't practice mindfulness every day, but I know if I'm struggling, I can take myself to somewhere. I can, I love taking the dog out down the beach when it's quiet, dead early morning, and I can spend a lot of time just along the seafront, with just the sound of the sea. And that for me helps me ground and rethink. And I'll do that if I'm struggling, if I've had a bad week, or if I've got something coming up. And I probably spent a bit of this time yesterday morning in the fog, on the seafront thinking about this podcast, because this strikes terror into me,
Right.
you know, talking on this. You know, my accent, I don't normally talk on screen. You know, the thought of doing this didn't fill us with dread. It filled us with excitement, but also this could be a massive failure. So that when we're thinking about this for me could be a huge failure. People could listen to this and go, that guy is a complete clown. I don't know why he's talking. And that's scary. But I also think I've got a strong enough message and a strong enough ethos that it's worth taking that step.
Yes.
And again, even if one person listened to this and got one thing out of it, even if it was a laugh, I honestly don't mind. But that to me made it more important to go to have this conversation. Because when you mentioned it, I was like, great, look, definitely want to do it. And then from then on, it's been, well, this is going to be awful. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to have to write loads of stuff down. I'm going to sound very unnatural. I'm going to say the wrong things. All the stuff I want to say isn't going to come across, because I don't class myself as being hugely, you know, eloquent about how I say. I'm very straightforward. Don't sugarcoat things. I don't try and throw in a huge amount of big words unnecessarily, ironically using the word unnecessarily, but and I'm just very straightforward on this. And so this did terrify me a little bit, but then I guess using the skill sets that I've got, it was like, well, you're going to talk about it. You're going to use them. Just do it. So
yeah, I totally share that. Like the launch of this for me has been one of the most terrifying things that I've done in recent times as well, for all the reasons, all the reasons that you've just articulated there. That fear of sounds like an idiot, that fear of like not really producing anything that's of any value to anybody, and or getting to the end of an interview and thinking, okay, I didn't ask this, I didn't ask the other. So even just, you know, even that reaching out to people and saying, hey, like, would you be interested in appearing? Absolutely terrifying, like ridiculously terrifying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's like you say, I think
from my perspective, it's dead easy. I can do one and you can just bin it. You put your commitment into this, you're going to do a number of these, and you're going to then put them out there, and you know, you as a person is going to be, you're going to be assessed, you're going to be people are going to comment, people are going to make judgments on all of the stuff that you do. I can run away after this one. So you know, the fear for me is probably slightly less, but obviously you've got to be able to deal with that. You've got to, you know, this is the good thing to do, and I love the ethos behind it and the premise behind it, and I think it'll be brilliant. And I hope loads of people listen and get things from it, because it's such a important thing to be open about things and really be yourself. So I can imagine that can be terrifying from your side, whereas slightly less terrifying from me, because if you decide you don't like this can just go on the cutting room floor. It's fine.
I think what you do really well online though is, because you're right, I think that those comments will come. You know, I see you navigate on social media, I see you navigate engaging with both positive and negative comments online. I see you do that with a lot of humor and a lot of frankness, and I wondered if you wanted to talk about that at all in terms of the way in which you to yourself.
I think it's interesting, because I think anyone who comments deserves a response. If they're taking the time to comment, they probably need a response. Having one or two posts that went a little bit mad on the numbers, which was insane actually, and some of the comments I got on that were just like awful, and I fear for anyone who has to navigate social media as a child these days, or coming into that. I think anyone who's taking the time, I'm going to try and take the time to respond back. Anyone who's got a negative comment to say, that's fine, don't mind. You're probably going to get something sarcastic back, because that doesn't affect me. Anyone who's got something positive to say, I will acknowledge that, and I'd happily take that on board and try and respond in a positive way, because they've taken the time to do it. If you've really got nothing in your life that you have to respond something horrible on then that's fine as well, but you're probably going to get something equally sarcastic or stupid back. And to take it to heart is just daft. I'd rather just throw something ridiculous out there. And I should probably I guess if you do take a step back and try and understand why people do that, it's quite difficult, because you kind of think, well, why, what's made you decide that at this point you need to make a comment like that? So I'd comedy or humor, whether it's only something I get or anybody else gets, for me, it's just an easy way to make those comments kind of just brush them off almost. But anyone who's got any other comments on there, I would always try and interact, because if anyone's made the time, they deserve a response of some way, even if it's just a thank you. Because on social media, you know, it's quite a horrible place to be at times. And if you do take it to heart and you are, you know, quite sensitive about it, which I have been in the past with some comments. But again, I don't know people. You don't know them personally. They don't know you personally. It's very unlikely to be a personal attack on you. It's just something they've taken to heart, or they really just want to make a comment on there.
or just
Humor's one of the best ways to get rid of it, I think, is just, throw something back at them and see what sticks.
Yeah. Something that I enjoy that you do as well is you do a lot of work where it feels like you're debunking some of the myths or some of the fads kind of in fitness at the moment, particularly kind of influencer fitness. And there's a lot of work that you do around there about like, do this, don't do that. And cutting through to the chase saying, well, actually doing either's great. Like do what works for you. And I wondered if you wanted to just reflect on that.
I think if you look on any social media at the minute from anybody, everybody's telling you you're doing it wrong. Everybody's telling you this is the right way to do it. Everybody's telling you you have to be training optimally to improve. You must be doing this. You must do CrossFit. It's the greatest thing in the world. You must do high rocks. It's much better than CrossFit. You must have this form or you're not going to grow. You must eat this. You must eat that. 90% of people struggle to get into the gym at all for whatever reason, whether it's fear of being in the gym, fear of judgment, all of that sort of thing. And a lot of this, I think, comes from people looking online and going, I'm never going to look like that. If I'm not doing that, then what's the point in us going? I'm never going to be able to lift in that way because I don't really know what I'm doing. And they're all like insane. And I've trained a lot and I can guarantee 90% of the work that I do is not optimal. Most of the way I train is I train in a way that I know is going to be effective in some way. I'm not going to be on stage. I'm not a bodybuilder and I'm not now doing professional sports or anything like that. So I don't need to aim for that. I need to aim to keep myself healthy in a way that is consistent and I guess repeatable. So I find stuff that I like to do. I wouldn't necessarily tell clients to train like I do. You just look at it on there. And if you spend all the time looking online and on Instagram or YouTube or anywhere and think, this is what I'm going to train. I'm going to train like him. You flick through the next person. It's like, oh, I can't train like him because he's just said I can't. I've got to train like that. And then you flick through again. It's like, oh no, that one's really bad for you. I'm going to have to train like this. You scroll through again. It's like, oh no, I can't train like that or that. Or that. Actually, I've got really no idea what I'm supposed to do. And for me, the people who can train will train, and they'll train in their own way. The people who've done it for years will know what they're doing, whether or not it's optimal or not. And I guarantee most of the people who are shouting all of this stuff are not training entirely like that all the time. What we need to be doing is getting the majority of people just into the gym and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like when I prescribe a workout to somebody, and I will always ask, is there anything in there that you dislike doing or anything that you don't know how to do? And if they go, yeah, I hate doing them, I'm going to take them out. That might be the most effective exercise you've ever done in your entire life. But if you don't like doing it, you're probably going to do it wrong and you're never going to do it again. So I would take that out and just say, no, gone, don't worry about it, do something else. Even just getting down to specifics, people like, I want you to do a deadlift. Okay, well, I don't like using the box. Don't really know how to do it properly. I'd rather use dumbbells or rather use a snap bar. Absolutely fine. You know why? Because you're not going to be a deadlifting world champion. You're not doing it for that. You're doing it for the benefits of deadlifting. Is it an optimal exercise over the other one? Maybe not. Actually, although to be honest, for your physiology, maybe it is. That's the other thing is you're looking at that thinking, well, that person's able to do that absolutely precisely. You could be carrying injury and you might be slightly immobile. You might have flexibility issues where that optimal exercise is no longer optimal for you. Something else is. But that's the beauty of having personal training where someone can assess that. But if you try to navigate your way through a fitness world online, you might as well never go to the gym because you'll be doing something wrong at some point. You're probably wearing the wrong shoes and the wrong laces, or your shorts are too long and you kind of training them. That's how extreme it's become online. I would always want everyone to take a step back and think, well, actually, what am I trying to achieve? What do I like doing? And how can I make both of them work? That's really important. And it's like, again, for me, if someone came to me and said, I want to get fit, I'm 35, 35 to 45, 55, I've never really trained. I want to get fit. I want to lose some weight. The last thing I'd be telling them to do is go running. Because so many people get injuries from running, especially when you start late in life. So I would be trying to understand why they wanted to do it and what they enjoy doing and trying to figure that out. So just prescribing an exercise because it's the best way to get somewhere or that person's best way to get there, it just goes in cycles. And you'll find out that in 3 months' time, that optimal one is no longer optimal and now it's back to something else. And there's lots of great science behind it all. And there's some brilliant, brilliant people online, but it gets lost amongst the noise.
Yes.
gets lost amongst the perfect lighting, gets lost amongst the, all of that. I've done these 27 videos when I was in absolutely peak condition, and I'm going to roll them out through the year. So it looks like I'm always this level.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of it myself, because I am, as you said, I am in shape, and I don't want that to put people off, but I've worked bloody hard over the last 15, 20 years to get where I am. And I've made lots of mistakes along the way as well, but I'm not going to pretend what I do is absolutely optimal, but I love it and it's repeatable, and I've managed to maintain it for 15 to 20 years. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be doing it. I would have probably binned it off after 2 months and just gone, nah, it's too hard. Don't want to do it. Don't let it.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. One of the things that you touched on there was that for some people, the fear of getting it wrong can be the thing that will stop them from engaging in the first place. And you talked a little bit when we were talking about failure, is that fear of failure might have prevented you earlier on in life from doing some of the things that you might have done otherwise. It strikes me that fear is like the lifeblood often of armor, the armor that we use to protect ourselves from things. And so I was wondering, on reflection, what types of armor do you see manifest within either the corporate space, within the personal training space? And then just reflect on yourself. What is the armor that you wear or have worn in the past? What are the things that you've used to shield up or used to protect behind?
Really interesting question, that, because understanding other people's armor is difficult. And when you do sort of get into that, it leads you to understand what they are. But I guess, in the corporate space, people have a lot of armor in a way that, they almost hold a lot of things back. They'll find ways to make themselves more important or more in those spaces by either holding back information, sharing information at certain times, not necessarily looking after the best interests of everybody, almost. And I think one of the biggest things that I get frustrated with is people who have ambition and all they want to do is just make sure that they're seen to be the right people doing that. And and if they've got that level of ambition, their armor is around, I'm protecting myself. And I realize you've done all the hard work, but this is I've got us where we need to be. And this is my success, not yours. So there is a little bit of that in people, I think, where, they're not prepared to give and understand, other people have got, as a leader anyway, 90% of the time it's everybody else has got you where you need to be, or got the team where they need to be. So I would never, I as a person would never take credit for that. I think that always has to go to the people who've done the work. I think, there's a lot of bravado in the gym. There's a lot of people who protect themselves in a way that's, it might be, they'll always wear headphones and they don't want to be talked to. They'll always be, they'll probably try and lift too heavy. There'll be, people that they'll stick to certain types of training because they don't think it's the right thing to, like we're talking about there, don't think it's the right thing to do, doing something else, they'll avoid it. Or it's difficult to spot armor, I think, because until it comes down, you don't know it's there.
Yeah.
It's very much just that person is what they're given. I think having an awareness that there's people carry their own armor and people are wearing it is really important, because then you can probably spot the signs, because normally when it drops for that odd few seconds, you can see that little insight into people.
Yeah.
There's the people use armor, the kind of, I'm probably one of them, where I talk a little bit too much, and sometimes that's a fear of being called out on things. And it's, we're really, rather than just talk and let a few seconds and let that happen, I'm trying to work on that myself.
Right.
Because that can be a bit of a protective thing. Humor is always sometimes a thing that people do as well, and kind of make a joke of things rather than understand the seriousness of it. I tend to use humor to break the seriousness of it, because it all gets too intense and people need to sometimes realize that it's not the end of the world what we're dealing with. This is something that we just need to get over and get on. My own armor, I think I probably talked a little bit about it there. I guess I surround myself with like-minded people.
And
I think that's a form of armor as well, because then it's people that are, I guess, reinforcing my beliefs, my understandings, my thought processes, my own, I guess, traits as well. And sometimes I'll avoid the people who may be more challenging, as opposed to really trying to push and understand and get get that relationship with them. In the gym, I don't think I carry that much armor personally. I think I'm really open and I would happily talk to people, although I do look quite moody when I'm just sat on the machine. So am I the most approachable person? No. Is that an intentional armor? No. So I do try and break that down when I can.
Yeah.
And talk to people as much as possible. Because I would love to go into the gym and basically have to miss an entire session because somebody was asking us questions about stuff. Well, that to me would be brilliant. But I guess just training myself consistently and trying to maintain how I look is essentially a bit of an armor. But because I've always struggled a little bit with certain people see me because I train. And if I didn't train anymore, would they still see me as me?
Yes,
I'm not the external, I'm the internal. And that can be difficult. So, do I maintain where I'm at to avoid any kind of comments around, you don't train anymore now. You're not the person I thought you were. But then, to be fair, if people think that that's who I am, then they're not the people that really need to be in and around me either. But yeah, I don't know. That's probably a very, really woolly answer to that one because it's really hard to spot it. I think until somebody lets it down, and then you can really see the individual beyond that.
I think that realization of the identity, the kind of public and private identity you have as a personal trainer, as somebody who's in shape, of somebody who's in that fitness space, that's a really interesting one to try and navigate, isn't it? Because like you say, that's something that you're really proud of something that you've worked really consistently in, something that really means a lot to you for all the areas that we've covered today. But then it has the potential, doesn't it? Like you say, it's supposed to take on an identity of its own life of your own, that it's almost self-defining. Well, what am I without that then? If I was to lose that identity or lose that version of myself.
And I do probably battle with that a little bit, because I constantly get reminded and remind myself that doesn't define me. I would hope that and to sound sort of a little bit cheesy, I would hope that my heart, my soul, my mind, my outlook defines me. What the things I'm passionate about define me. The way I interact with people defines me. The way I treat people defines me. The way I look on the outside doesn't. Although when you go back to the social media world, it entirely does define you as a person within there. And that's your billboard at the end of the day. That's what people first look at. And people will make their own assumptions based on that. And to be honest, quite often incorrectly when I've had certain messages on there, and it's entirely not who I am. So I do have that battle because I'm not some just big unit who wanders around kind of be all imposing. I don't think I am that. I do think I'm a good, kind, gentle person with a heart in the right place, who wants people to be the best they can be. But trying to explain that physically, like on an outward basis, how do you do that? I've got to try and get that across to people somehow. And I try to do that a little bit with the posts, some with the humor. But again, ironically, on social media, nobody wants to hear that. People want to see like controversial stuff straight away. And unless it's clickbait, no one wants to know. But I've also given up the fact that I've realized I'm not going to be I'm not going to have 7 million followers, and I'm not going to travel to Dubai to do the bicep curls over there. That's not who I am, and that's not who I want to be either. Like I said, if I got 3 or 4 people who responded to anything and said, "Oh, that made a difference," or "That's really helped me," that I would get more out of that than anything else. I'm not doing it as a self-promotion thing. No. A lot of it is around accountability for myself as well.
Right.
You put something on there. It's that's what I've done. That's where I'm at. But also being able to look back to where I was to where I am now. There's accountability in there, but it's the outward definition is a strange one because it's also difficult to manage it in the corporate place because people make assumptions in here. You'll go into a meeting and I'm 6'3", 105 kilos, and walking in, and people will instantly make an assumption on who I am. And they don't know how to take us, which is interesting, but people, I would hope I would discount that when I first meet people, and it's about the person, but that doesn't always happen. And I don't think I fit the corporate personality. Not the corporate personality. That's not right. The corporate persona. Let's say. I think if I walk in with a shirt and tie on and all that, which I will happily do, I think I just get judged a little bit differently.
Yes. Yeah.
I never really noticed it, to be fair. Didn't really notice it until I was at just some work recently, and people will make the odd comment, and I'll be like, "Strange one to make that."
Yeah.
But Yeah, it's a really odd thing, which I probably never really until recently picked up on. But yeah, I guess that's the constant battle where I know who and I'll be honest, I didn't really find out who I was, as a person, probably till mid to late 30s. And when you find people who like you for you and understand you for
Yes,
you.
yeah.
Whereas I think from school onwards, I just had this big battle of I wanted to be with the most popular people. And I would jump around from friendship group to friendship group, and I wanted to find out where I'd sit, and then I'd want to try and be the next one. And I don't think I
Yeah.
was ever me, really,
Yeah,
when I was
yeah.
younger. I was always striving to be something else. So the true friends I had at school, when I look back, it was one of my biggest regrets. I probably didn't treat them well at all. And I think that's changed since I've grown and I've gone away from that. I need to impress everybody by being
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. And now I'm being me.
Yeah.
And hold on, people actually quite like that. It's it was a strange thing to do. And I think that change was sort of, yeah, like I say, sort of early to mid 30s when I was like, oh, well, actually, you probably are quite a nice person. And
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
and just build on that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know that comment went down, but that's certainly take a little bit of attention.
No, it's good. But I think, because I totally hear what you're saying, though, because I think we're similar height and similar weight. And I think in when I was leading in academia, I think I was very conscious of and I suppose not just in academia, but in life in general, I'm really self-aware of the presence that I make within a room, and oftentimes I'm putting a lot of work in trying to disarm people's misconceptions of me or reassure people and be like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm not, you might have this perception of somebody my size, my weight kind of coming into this space of what that might be, but I'm not that. And a lot of effort going into trying to soften that for people or almost trying to make yourself smaller in a, metaphorically in a space to kind of just reassure people a little bit.
I think there's two sides of it. There's sometimes that, and there's sometimes using it. There is times where, it's beneficial. And I think recognizing that's one thing. But I'm very aware of it because we have a lot of graduates and technicians, young guys and girls in our office, and that can be quite intimidating. If I'm strolling up and down, I'm not particularly quiet either. And I think I've got quite a loud personality, which is probably annoys a lot of people, but it can be quite intimidating. But I need to be in a role where I am approachable, so I have to fight that battle. I'm trying to do that now by taking more of a bit of an ownership on the kind of the briefings to the teams and trying to be available as much as I can, which I think is really important. And it always does soften. It does soften to a point where people realize that I am an approachable guy and I am there to try and help. But to be honest, at times as well, it can be beneficial to be in the back of a room, not necessarily saying anything, just being a presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wondered, and I guess this is the thing for me, is when people say, oh, they've always got a presence when they walk in the room. I want to have that, but I don't want it to be an overpowering, dominant presence.
Yes,
so I don't actively try it because I will always try to be my authentic self when I go into a room or whatever. You always wonder, don't you, what people's perceptions are of you. It would just be an interesting one. So someone went, oh yeah, you can tell when he's come in the room, and it's not because he's loud and makes a lot of noise, but I'd like to have that presence, but the presence of somebody who's strong enough to support and help people as well as just being strong, if that makes sense. It's a strange one. I think there's one guy, I know we're probably going on a little bit here, but when there was one leader in our company from years and years and years ago, it had stuck with me basically since then. Now he used to run our UK business. He came in, he was a young bloke, and he had real ideas about how to build the teams and that sort of thing. And he stood up in front of everybody. Basically, we're a consultancy business. So he basically stood up in front and said, look, we are a consultancy business. We deal with people. Our people are our greatest assets. We don't develop our assets. We don't develop our people. We have nothing. And he didn't just say that. He then implemented lots of things around staff engagement, around understanding where we stood as a business amongst everybody from the bottom all the way to the top. And there was a real drive at that point around the people. And I've taken a lot from that, as that in life, essentially, that's who we deal with in every day. We deal with people. We buy things, but we have no link with things. We have links with people, and that's where the importance is. Understanding how we do that and how we can do it better, but also how we can be better, but how we can make other people better and how we can draw the best out of people. I love seeing it. Like I said, I love seeing it when people talk passionately about stuff. And if you're able to encourage that and really bring it out of somebody, that to me is one of the most rewarding things you'll ever see. Whether or not it's something I've got any interest in at all, but hearing somebody and seeing somebody talk about something, it's like, you're almost blown away by that passion to the point where you're like, oh, you're up a height as well. Whether or not it could be something completely outside of my wheelhouse and probably something I'm not that interested in, but you feel it, don't you? You feel somebody's passion, you feel somebody's real soul and desire from it, and it's one of the most powerful things you'll ever get. And if you can create a team that does that, then you're pretty much unstoppable. You wouldn't have to do anything. You would just be like, well, you guys just go away, do what you do, and then we'll be fine.
Amazing. Thank you, Craig. It's been awesome. Like, thank you so much. So I think we can draw it to a close pretty much. If people who are listening to this or people who watch this, if they wanted to follow you on social media, where's the best place and where would they reach out to kind of connect?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's the Total Coach. On there, that's probably the main one, to be honest. It is on Facebook as well, but I've never driven the Facebook one because that's probably, I don't know, feels like it's dying to death a little bit with all the adverts. But no, it's the Total Coach on Instagram, or the totalcoach.co.uk is the website, and there's all the kit bag stuff is on there. And there's obviously email addresses on there. So anything they want to talk about, the quickest way would be Instagram. Just drop us a DM, follow, whatever. And like I said, I will always try respond to people as much as possible. And I'd love any feedback, positive or negative. But if you do send the negative stuff, be prepared for some kind of sarcastic comment coming back. But yeah, that's it's been really, really good. And I hope it's been kind of what you were expecting, or in some cases not what you're expecting. That would be also quite good.
Yeah, no, really amazing. Yeah, no, I'm really, really pleased. So thank you so much. It's been really insightful and really helpful. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Unarmoured podcast with Dr. Solomon Lennox. For more episodes, articles and resources on living and leading unarmoured, visit unarmoured.co.uk. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with someone who needs it. And remember, the bravest thing you can do is to show up unarmoured.